Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Carrow Road, which is
Good
sunny.
morning.
Bastard, it is morning, isn't it? Good
Soon
morning,
to be.
everybody. Soon to be afternoon. Welcome to a very sunny Carrow Road. The team news has dropped for this lunchtime kickoff against Swansea here for Norwich City. I'll run you through the team. A couple of really interesting changes to get into. Norwich City line up like this. Gunning goal, Fisher, Duffy, Doyle and Maceuovo as the back four. Full debut for Lucien Maceuovo at Norwich City. McLean, Marcondes and Schwartau is the midfield three. Hernandez on the right, Dobbin on the left, and a first start since October at Carrow Road for Josh Sargent. The subs bench, Long, Stacey, Krezene, Hills, Cordoba, Dejeje, Sorensen makes the bench, Miles and Anti-Cianats. Let's start with Lucien Maceuovo, Pad, because I think what we saw at Bramall Lane and what we saw at Ellen Road, and it's funny because it has been an injury crisis. They have had players out, but Johannes spoke about it maybe being an opportunity for others to step into it. Lucien Maceuovo's done that in two probably cameo appearances. He gets an opportunity to really cement his place in this Norwich City first team this afternoon.
Yeah, it's exciting. To be fair, I don't want to blow our trumpets, but last Sunday morning we had a chat on that episode of the Pinkham podcast. So
it's very rare anyone to blow our trumpets, I think.
Yeah, well, nobody's listened to it anyway, so I've got to refer people to what we discussed. But we did talk about. I think you asked the question: could he start at Leeds off the back of that 20 minutes of Bramall Lane? I thought that probably was a little bit too given. It was Leeds and Ellen Road, a bit premature. But I think both of us agreed that this game today, yeah, why not? Let's get him in. Let's see what he's about. And I'm not saying Johannes pays any heed. Certainly wouldn't pay any heed to what we say. But it is good to see him in because it cuts to the heart of what they're trying to do. Which is give young players with potential opportunities to come in, express themselves, and maybe say, no, I'm not ready in the mid to longer term. I'm ready in the here and now. And this is a guy who's on some serious trajectory. 6 months this time last season. I think he played non-league football, Boston United, on loan in National League North. Comes in the summer, pretty unheralded, seen as a development signing.
Would that have been under Ian Colbahouse, just as a reference point? Maybe
I don't know the cross-referee. He was there, wasn't he, Cully? So, and then, from development signing in the summer, he's now accelerated to the point he's got a new deal in his back pocket just a month or so back. And because obviously primarily these injuries and unavailabilities, he gets his opportunity, but boy, is he taking it. Looked fearless at Sheffield and Leeds as well. Looked comfortable in the surroundings. Yes, let's see what he's about. Against, with the greatest respect to Swansea, not a Sheffield or not a Leeds. And onus on some of the experienced players around him in that area of the pitch to sort of help him along a bit. I'm thinking primarily for me it'd be Kenny McLean, it'd be Duffy and Doyle, who's experienced in terms of games played. They'll need to coax him through at times, but this is what we're told this strategy is all about. So they're in the form of Lucien Maceuovo, and even on the bench, Uriah Deji remains on the bench with Elliot Miles. It's good. It's good to see. It's fresh. It feels like they're turning the wheel with the squad, and they're not, as Johannes has said a few times, and Schwartau falls into that category as well, let's be honest, albeit he's had far more exposure. They're not ready now. There will be mistakes. There will be inconsistencies, but
was Colbahouse.
It was Cully, was it? Yeah, maybe he got on the phone. So we know they're not ready. We know there'll be ups and downs. You get that with younger players. But I think the trade-off on what we've seen so far, albeit a small sample with Maceuovo, is, let's see him today. Because I don't think, with the greatest respect, and he's another younger one, Ben Krezene, he hasn't really come in and stamped his authority. He looked okay in a few games. I thought he got exposed a little bit at Ellen Road for that first goal. Sheffield, obviously, he gives away the penalty, and it was his turnover that led to that unbelievable opportunity for, attempt from Hamer from halfway line, Gunny tipped over. So there's just been signs that maybe he's not expressing himself in terms of the personality that I'm ready. So let's see this guy. And, hopefully he goes well. And we might be talking about Star is Born at full time if it's gone that well for him today.
Yeah, let's hope so. I tell you what I liked about what he did at Bramall Lane in particular, but also Ellen Road. It was almost the shoulders back. I'm sort of here now, and it wasn't a young lad coming on, and they can be a little bit timid. It can be a daunting experience to walk into senior football. With him, it was very much like he was ready. There was an intent to play forward every time. There was an intent to progress the ball, and that's probably the element that I don't think Ben Krezene has given them in the same way as maybe Callum Doyle when he's played there. I think I said this on our Instagram chat. It's an interesting one with Doyle because he is a better centre back. but I think Norwich have been better as a team with him at left back. And the hope is, I think, with Maceuovo's profile and the way that he, some of his passing is at under 21s level this year has been really impressive, to the point where I think they've tried him as a midfielder on a few occasions. But I think he might be able to offer them that, and that would then obviously help Norwich retain Doyle at a centre back. So yeah, let's hope that young man goes well. And I mean, the other change, Paddy, Oscar Schwartau. I mean, I think we've both been impressed with him. Really, he's younger. You mentioned JJ. He's younger than him. It's
probably younger than Maceuovo, to be fair.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, and the fact that he's come to England, and we haven't really seen him in the position that Johannes has spoken about him as being maybe his best in that central position too often. We've seen him on the right. We've obviously seen him as a false nine as well. So I'm quite looking forward to seeing how he does. And that midfield three of McLean, Marcondes, Schwartau, feels like he's got a little bit more creativity in it.
There's a good parallel actually just popped into my head, because if you remember the corresponding fixture, which Norwich obviously lost 1-0 that day, he played on the right, and that was the first time we'd seen him on the right of the attacking three, and it didn't really work for him, if I'm honest. So in terms of that rate of progression, it'll be good to see him today, probably in a more favoured position for him, and see how far he has kicked on from that point. And that's more or less what Johannes said yesterday when he was asked about Schwartau and where he sees him, and probably has had, because again of the environment, more minutes than he would have been expecting. But even Leeds, okay, he wasn't, in terms of in the box, offering what a Josh Sargent would do. There's no way you could draw a parallel with what he did at Ellen Road. But his general build-up play, how he dropped deeper into those midfield areas, how he switched the play on 2 or 3 occasions that first half at Ellen Road, did look quite accomplished and did look like a player who is very comfortable in those areas of the pitch. So if that's where he is today, and that's where that lineup would appear to place him, then I like that again, because I think, as with Maceuovo, we'll learn a little bit more about him today. We might learn a little bit more about, is Schwartau ready now to go into that central midfield equation? What do you keep looking up there, Connor?
Well, I was just looking for Daniel, who's in D1, who was waving and is part of the three on the right. So yeah, I was just looking for him. So yeah, it's good to see you, Daniel. Thanks for watching. So there he is. He's waving now. There you go. So yeah, thank you for watching, Daniel.
Is that a wave, or is that
might be another hand gesture, but we'll leave it there.
Okay. No, I was just saying, yeah, no, with Schwartau, I thought it was interesting. Johannes said yesterday he started him on the right-hand side of midfield because that was a way into this side, and he didn't want to burden him with that extra responsibility. And we know how important central midfielders are in this team under this head coach. And of course, with Slimani and hopefully Nunes not too far away now, it might be a one-time only look at him in the here and now. So go and grasp it and go and show that maybe you're ready to be considered for moving forward now, that central midfield position, which I think we'd all agree, and Johannes does, is his natural position, I think.
Josh Sargent starts. I mean, we talk about Norwich City from an attacking perspective and maybe what they haven't done in the last couple of games.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, Ali. That's bound to give this group a lift, isn't it? The quality that he has, the presence that he has. You've got to think that's going to help their attacking output today.
Oh, it's massive. Yeah, it's transformational, hopefully. And you can kind of understand when it was Brighton, Sheffield, Leeds, what in those games, and it proved to be the case. Bit of a thankless task for your forward player. So that allied to, he'd missed 14 games with the groin surgery. Don't push him back too quickly. But today feels like, yes, unleash him, go from the start. And hopefully he's had enough minutes now, and he's had enough of a training block. That it'd be interesting how long he goes for. But for me, I think we said it on the Instagram live when we came back from Leeds on Thursday. It suits this game, I think. You start him, you get 65, 70 minutes, and if hopefully the game is in a good, healthy position, get him off. Rather than what happened at Sheffield and Leeds, where he was almost trying to engineer a position of the game where you could introduce him for 20, 25 minutes, a little bit longer at Leeds. I just think him at the start, with Norwich on the front foot, home crowd behind him, that's the best environment. And as Johannes said yesterday, he'll tell him to get a shot on target, tongue-in-cheek. He doesn't need to be told that, because his record this season prior to the injury, last season when he got back into the side after injury, he's as good as anything in the Championship in his position. You're going to miss a player like that, particularly when, with the greatest respect to the ones who've come in, they can't lace his boots as a striker.
Yes, agreed. I tell you what I like about the team. We'll show you the Swansea team in a minute. Just feels like it's got a lot more balance to it, a lot more structure to it than maybe we've seen in recent weeks. It's probably boosted by some of the names that are returning on the bench, but you've got to think that's going to help with some of the fluidity issues that has led to that sort of attacking toothlessness, I guess, in recent weeks. The fact you've got Fisher at right back instead of in midfield, you've got Schwartau in a natural position, you've got Maceuovo in there as well, and what we hope to see from him this afternoon. It just feels a lot more of a better balance. Dobbin and Hernandez on either flank. It feels like there's variation in there. There's a bit more structure, maybe.
Yeah, it does. It does. They obviously need to go and execute that now, but big. Further forward, big for Hernandez today after what he said yesterday. That he has looked, and I think we'd all agree, more effective coming into games. The reverse maybe of a Sargent, but opportunity knocks again today. Can he go into this environment and add that end product, whether that's assists, whether that's goals? Dobbin, I think there's been signs he's got something about him, but you wouldn't say he's exactly come in and you thought, oh, that's a great piece of loan business.
I've sort of felt pace, but not yet that connecting element with quality and output yet.
And to give him his due, didn't play a huge amount of minutes at West Brom.
He said after Sheffield United he felt he was a little bit short of sharpness, to be fair.
So again, we would hope that certainly defensively I'd agree balance is clearly there with those names in those positions. Midfield, you've got the experience of McLean, the legs of Schwartau, Marcondes can do a little bit of everything there in terms of midfield. And with that central pivot of Sargent, that structurally is where Norwich need to go, isn't it? Because he it's not just his threat inside the box, it's how he links the play. It's the first line of the press when they're out of possession and trying to turn over half the pitch. He's an integral part of it, and you just hope with him there as that focal figurehead attacking wise, Dobbin and Hernandez can really move up through the levels from what they've produced over the last 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, just back to Maceuovo. I mean, I know there's been lots of comparisons to 17-18, but it was around this time of the season where Jamal Lewis really started was dropped in and really started to kick on. So it goes to show if you're a young player, I think they had a few injuries in that occasion as well. If you're a young player and you get an opportunity, it's there to be grasped. Let's bring you the Swansea team then. This is how they line up this afternoon. It's Vigorote in goal, Key, Cabango, Del Crooks, who they signed from Burnley earlier this week, and Timon as their back four. Matt Grimes, very good at this level, alongside Franco. Pert Harris on the right, Ronald on the left, with Cullen behind Bianchini. Their subs bench, McLaughlin, Fulton, Vittelpanic, Jisung, Chinelli, Choey, this is hard, Choey Young, Christie, Norton and Parker. There we go. That's the Swansea bench for this afternoon. Ex-Norwich, yeah, an incredible career that he's had, and what a spell he's had at Swansea as well, which is basically where he went post-Norwich. So, yeah, some servant there. But to look at Norwich City's bench, Paddy, we're looking at the names down now. I mean, obviously, Stacey and Kruzene have been forced to play in recent weeks, but Jakob Sorensen back on there, Cordoba back on there. It looks and feels significantly stronger than what they've had in the last couple of weeks.
Well, I mean, go back to last Saturday afternoon at Bramall Lane, 2:00. That team lose drops, and particularly the bench. I think I'm right in saying there was 6 players there without a start between them in the league, and only 2 substitute appearances between them. That names that you've listed there is considerably stronger. Game-changing capacity there. You would hope if you need it. Cover as well. Although I'm a little bit surprised that Sorensen has fast-tracked himself in. I didn't get that sense from Johannes' presser yesterday. He was quite ready to be considered for today, but. And still that little twist at the end of the subs bench with Deji and Miles and Hills is kind of somewhere in between.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're at a stage with Brad Hills now where he almost, because of Hanley's exit, and it's been probably communicated to us really, they expect him to push up. So it's probably, I don't know, do we still include him in that? He is a young man, so I guess we do still include him in the young bracket. But like you said, maybe he's a little bit of a halfway house at the moment.
Yeah, still more so towards the raw unproven at this level, because you just look at his minutes, he's had very limited opportunities. But that may change now as we sort of tick down towards the end of the season. Particularly if the Duffys and the Cordobas and the Doyles either injure or suspension intervenes, he is the next cab off the rank. There's no doubt about it, and he needs to show something. I feel because Adebayo is getting some rave reviews up at Dundee United. He will come back in the summer and he will be a lot closer to first team consideration. So Brad Hills will know. His position in the squad is probably been elevated post Hanley, but that won't be enough to kick him on even further with other players in and around this club coming back in the summer who maybe feel, no, I want to get myself in and around the Norwich starting 11. So, yeah, whether we seem to not today or not, you'd thought Cordova would be the first option, but yeah, if I'm Brad Hills, I'm thinking right now there's clarity in terms of where I stand in the pecking order. I need to put my foot down any opportunity I get between now and May.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the final point before we go on to how the game's going to go, it's a lot more options now that you feel in there. Maybe not just necessarily change the game, but who can help Norwich if they're in a position where they need to preserve it or they need to bring players off and manage minutes a little bit more. They've got options to maybe do that, as opposed to maybe earlier this week where it felt like it was really Sargent. Obviously, Sianas was on the bench in midweek, but and then it was Miles and it was Maceuovo, wasn't it? So you're limiting yourself to 4 subs. It feels like there's probably more options in there for Johannes this weekend.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And an option to you would feel would be able to go on and affect the game. Now, if you're a head coach and you're turning around and you want to make substitutions, whatever the game state, the common thread is they need to go on and impact. And with the greatest respect, as much as we've talked up Maceuovo and Miles, you're not, and the opposition is Sheffield and Leeds, you can't really expect that to be the case. Sargent was the one who, and certainly at Sheffield, the game had already ran away from him because he was just due to come on when Crescenti had his rush of blood. So events conspired against them on that day. But Swansea is an interesting one. Of those names, we're looking down at the bench. I thought that was quite a revealing explanation from Johannes yesterday, that he's basically had to play too many minutes. That what they'd have ideally liked to do with him in this season was game, drop out, game, drop out. But that hasn't been the case. But having said that, he has had a little bit of respite in the recent games. So if he was hypothetically to come into the game in the second half, surely we'll see something that is maybe a little bit more than what he's offered, because let's be brutally honest, going back to the Plymouth and the Luton games when he scored back-to-back, I mean, he hasn't scored since, but as he actually threatened, looked like he was going to score. Not for me. He looks like a player who's found it quite tough going. Johannes has talked about he's ran out of energy, he's found the physicality element of it. That's clearly going to take the edge off what he does have, which is technical ability, absolutely no doubt about it. So maybe the breather he's had will bring him back up a little bit, and he can start to affect the play again, because he hasn't done that anywhere near enough this season for me.
No, completely agree. And I was going to add, really, but I think you sort of covered it off. He's been a bit static for me, but whether that sort of goes into the energy point, he's been a bit sort of on his feet, flat-footed. There's not really been the movement or mobility that perhaps we saw from him earlier in the season on the right-hand side. And like you say, he's played a lot of minutes, but thankfully that means he's obviously eligible enough for a work permit, which means they can then bring Eurosec in. So these things all work in different ways. Let's get down to it then, Paddy. How do you see this game going this afternoon from a Norwich City perspective?
You've got to be fairly optimistic, haven't you? I think we haven't talked about it, but funny if Ewan sat behind us, and I was reading his column for the Pink on Friday, and I wasn't aware that Williams had sort of been mooted with the West Brom job, and there was a little bit of a radio silence from him until he came out, and probably because West Brom had decided they were going in a different direction, if he was ever a realistic candidate. But that hasn't played well with, according to what Ewan was writing, with maybe the Swansea fan base, almost like, when a better offer came along, you were maybe a bit like Russell Martin, maybe they're scarred a little bit. So if there's that in the background, and they've been up and down, they got hammered, didn't they? Was it last week?
Am I right, Adam, in saying they've lost 4 in a row on the road? I feel like
I think they have. 4 and 5. I think that, yeah. So that isn't a club at the moment on an upward curve, it feels like, looking from afar. And the flip side of everything we've discussed about Norwich now, that looks considerably a better, balanced, stronger 20 than the last 2 games particularly. We know how good they've been here in the main under Giannis this season. Irrespective of the opposition, they've managed to normally put a consistency in performance and result off the back of that. Hard to look beyond a Norwich win for me. 2-1, maybe 3-1. You, Connor?
Yeah, agreed. I think Norwich will win this game. It kick-starts, obviously, a really favourable run for Norwich. And, of course, we know what this league is like. It's about playing teams at the right time often. And, momentum's huge in this league. I think 6 of the next 9 are at home. You would hope they can eat into that points gap between them and the top 6, which is 6 points at the start of today. So I think they will win this game after what's been a tough week. And yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Norwich win, I think. So hopefully that is the case, and we're talking about a much brighter afternoon than what we saw, and hopefully
the
some
Norwich
shots on
season
target.
Ticket holder here who knows his onions, but he never wants to come on. Mr. Church, you're going to come on? No, okay. What's your prediction? What's your prediction for today? Hey? What's your prediction?
2-1.
2-1 Norwich.
There we go. There we go. We're all agreed.
Had money on it.
Let's
had money on it. Even better.
There we go. Well, let's hope we're all right come this evening. Thank you all very much for watching. We'll of course have all the coverage, analysis, reaction, pinkin.com throughout this afternoon, and we'll bring you those quotes from Johannes Hoftorp after the game as well. See you later.